This episode of Obscure Chatter is brought to you by Plot Holes. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning. Today, we are here to address a matter of fairness and accountability. You will hear what truly happened within the Cave of Wonders and throughout the city of Agrabah. On November 25th, 1992, my client entered into a contract with the defendant. This magically binding contract was clear. In exchange for rubbing a genie's lamp, the defendant was to provide 3 wishes to my client. 3 wishes, and then the defendant would return to his lamp and await a new master. Let the record show that master is the defendant's wording, not my client's. These 3 wishes were not just a casual agreement. They were the foundation of a business relationship, crucial to my client's professional and personal success. The defendant laid out the rules quite clear. No wishing for more wishes, no killing, no bringing people back from the dead, no making people fall in love, and wishes can't change the past. Anything else was within the defendant's abilities. But what happened next? The defendant failed to deliver by not providing the wishes as agreed. My client was left without the support they were promised, causing significant harm to their reputation, livelihood, and life. And what was that first wish? It was to be a prince. More accurately, it was to become a prince, not look like one, not parade around Agrabah flaunting the trappings of wealth. My client wanted to become a prince in order to court and marry a princess. Romantic, isn't it? The defendant may argue that they attempted to provide the services or that the failure was due to circumstances beyond their control. But the evidence will show that these are merely excuses to cover up a breach of contract. At the end of this trial, we will ask you to hold the defendant accountable for their failure to fulfill their obligations. We will ask you to award damages to my client for the harm they suffered. This is not just about money. It's about ensuring when someone rubs a lamp that they get their 3 wishes. Thank you. And now, on to the episode. Welcome to another episode of Obscure Chatter. I am your host, Terri Doty. If this is your first time listening, welcome. And if it isn't, welcome back. That's right. I'm going after the plot hole in Aladdin. Ha! Gotcha, Disney. A corporation, an entity that is in no way litigious as fuck. You know, not like they're arguing that a guy can't sue them because him and his wife signed up for Disney Plus forever ago. If you don't know about that, that's a wild thing. But we are not going to start off with that. No, because we'll talk about some technical stuff later on. But if this is your first time listening, I'm sure these corrections will mean absolutely nothing to you. But so I had been talking about doing corrections, and I have further corrections. I had mentioned in my last episode, I do not know how I confused 12 and 17, but I've actually been cigarette free for 17 years, not 12. Time's a hell of a thing. No idea how I lost 5 years in the last episode, but still, your congrats and all that was still very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Also, another one, because I was like, yeah, no, Parasyte, the dub is like just not available. I have been proven wrong so many times by so many people, including Sentai Filmworks, who, not personally, they didn't reach out to me like, hey, Terri, what's up? Nothing like that. But they're releasing a SteelBook for Parasyte, which I might have to get myself. They don't, nobody gives us copies of anything anymore, but I might have to pick that up. But the SteelBook for Parasyte the Maxim will be available November 26th with the English tracks. So with Yuko Tachikawa herself making some very poor dating decisions and some very poor, confronting decisions. But, pardon me, lead to just a few deaths, but not her own. Spoiler alert, sorry. Oh, man. Yeah, it's again, we are in the living room of the Doty-Hoffs because it has not cooled down. Hopefully cooling down is on the way. That thing where everybody's like, oh my God, can't wait. Autumn. Like, autumn doesn't feel like autumn here. Rarely ever. Honestly, when I think of autumn, I think of like that New England style, just a bunch of colonials everywhere. And, red and brown and orange and yellow leaves. And, okay, I'm just describing the beginning of Hocus Pocus. Got him again. I'm just going after everything. But yeah, here it's still really hot. But of course, that's not going to stop Terri Doty from wearing a hoodie. I wear a hoodie pretty much everywhere because I like keeping my arms covered. I like keeping my tattoos not tanned. And also, I just enjoy being pale. Being pale is a wonderful thing. So, media in August. I had this funny thing. I got this Nirvana shirt from this really cool thrift shop. It's like right across, literally like it's the door opposite Horror Freak in Bedford, which is one of my favorite shops. If you're not new, you know this. And they have really good vintage band tees. And I had been looking for a good, Steven and I both had been really looking for good Nirvana shirts. So I found one that I loved, and I basically wear it like once a week. I'm probably going to wear this thing out. But I went to this a studio that I record at, and when I opened, you have to like get buzzed in. When I got buzzed in, one of the front door people looked at my Nirvana shirt and went, name a Nirvana song and it can't be Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I've interacted with this person multiple times. We are the same age, but nothing causes a visceral reaction like a quiz like that. I don't know. I'm a girl that loves horror. So being like, oh, you like horror? Like name like da 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 da. Or have you ever seen this? They're just waiting for you to say like no and be like, oh, I thought you were a real horror person. If you want to wear a band shirt for a band that you don't know, I think you should be allowed to do that. But I immediately said heart-shaped box. And he's like, oh, okay, you're good. It's just some people, they come in here and they just say they like the shirt. I'm like, is that a bad thing? If they just like the shirt? Or, what if you're like, hey, name another Nirvana song? And I was like, grape me. How about, I'm saying grape. What if I'd said that in a studio setting? What if that was my favorite Nirvana song? Like, bro, there's a lot of holes in your logic. But that happened to Sarah, who's been on the show, Sarah Pintilia, where she was wearing a Def Leppard shirt and we were thrifting in Mansfield and someone's like, do you even know that's a band? And she's like, it is? Oh, I'm sure she's great. Like just being a complete ham about it. Like, no, it's it's hearing impaired leopard. Get it. I get it. Yeah, don't do that. But yeah, I've been listening to Nirvana a lot this month and 9 Inch Nails, especially like Terrible Lie. I don't know why I've just been kind of like doing projects like montaging to Terrible Lie. And then Apache, I think I used to say Apache or something, but I love storyboarding to their stuff, and I also just enjoy listening to that in the morning. They have a few albums, and there's an obsession for every couple. Every couple tracks are like at least 2 or 3 in an album are an obsession for a while, and then we've got a good amount now. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of that. And then watching stuff, I finished a lot this month. I finished The Artful Dodger, which I think is going to get a second season. If you have not checked it out, great performances by a bunch of actors that you'll recognize whose names I can't recall. So there's that. But brilliant, period piece about like being a surgeon in wild times, in Australia. And there is a tie to Oliver Twist. So yeah. Being that I remembered absolutely nothing about Oliver Twist other than, please, sir, may I have some more? Like, that's it. But it's not about Oliver Twist. Oliver Twist does show up as an adult. But yeah. Also, The Peripheral, which is based on a series of books by William Gibson, who, big cyberpunk author. I've read a few of his things, namely Neuromancer. But I'd never read The Peripheral, and The Peripheral was one of those shows that did get greenlit for a second season. And then that just got taken back. But I'm upset. It was really good. It's a really good mix of sci-fi and country, like country type stuff, about gamers and, just what that can mean for real world politics and just the way that we're going as far as capitalisming. That's what I'm going to say instead of capitalizing. Sure. And then there's Batman Caped Crusader, which I just finished this morning. And I got to say, I love the takes. Like, it's for people that enjoyed Batman the Animated Series, but also took a bunch of different takes on characters. Like, I love what they did with Harley Quinn, where we really got to see how psychotic Harley could be without being a henchman first, or, being relegated to being like the love interest, like Harley being like her own main bad guy from the jump, or, oh God, I could go on about that, but I will say, not spoiling anything, the way Bruce treats Alfred bothers me. He's so mean. But great voice acting. My gosh. A lot of people that I recognized, and then a lot of people that I'm like, who is that? Love it. As far as movies, the two big ones that are new were Deadpool, Wolverine, which I saw. I thought I was being clever seeing it on a Sunday in the morning, but it was still packed and there were still babies. I don't know why, leave your babies at home. Leave your babies at home, please. Or if they do cry, be a minch. Please, can you, please take the baby out. Cool the baby down. But we would just leave all the time as kids. Like, I'm one of 10 first cousins. Once one starts crying, it's time to go. Or we should bring back, a lot of theaters used to have crying rooms where you could just go into this soundproof area that still had windows, so you could still watch the movie, you could still hear the movie, but we didn't hear the baby. Let's bring those back. But I was also, it's just this, there were moments where you could see some people are like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. And I mean, it's Deadpool. What did you expect? And that's all I'll say without spoiling anything. It's gory, duh. But Alien Romulus, great. And it's nice to know, being a lifelong horror dork, that I still have thresholds that I do not want crossed. That's all I'll say on that. But there were just moments. And that, again, is, I saw it on the weekend. I saw it early in the morning. Horror movies, early morning showings, horror movies. There were maybe 6 other people there. Maybe. And it was great. I am getting tired. I have been, I go to the same movie theater all the time. I have been timing how much the trailers are, and I've estimated the show time, just add anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes. So an average of 23 minutes. and you'll be fine. I love trailers, but it's not just trailers anymore. This is such an old like soapbox thing, but like I remember it's like, okay, here are trailers, but you get trailers, and then in the middle of that, you still get commercials. I'm like, what? Please stop. Other things I saw, let's see. Oh, yesterday I saw for the first time ever, Warm Bodies, which is based on a series of books that I don't remember the author, but I'd never seen it and I liked it. It was cute, you know, a little zombie, one of the many zombie retellings of Romeo and Juliet. I'm not kidding. I'm thinking there are at least 5 others, probably. But it was cute. I like this distinction between like a zombie and like an entity that has like no human qualities left. They call them skeletons or bonies. I thought it was cute. And still a couple of moments where I was like, ooh, that's a cool design. Yeah, so if you haven't seen that. I also got to see Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Not in any way an actual autobiography on Weird Al, but it stars Daniel Radcliffe, Evan Rachel Wood, and you'll see little performances. Rainn Wilson plays Dr. Demento. Nina West, who is just an absolute delight of a person, playing Divine, just randomly in the background. But yeah, who doesn't love it just being weird? Like the Weird Al autobiography was exactly what it should be. And the way like he released it, I think originally was on Roku and then in theaters at the same time. And the reason he did that, from what I had read, is he had such an abysmal time promoting and getting UHF out there that he didn't want anything like that again to happen. So he did it his own way, and it was arguably weird. You know, but it's Weird Al, like, who even shows up as a record executive himself. I love him. Please check it out. I rented it on Amazon with some credits. I think I like altogether like rented it for like $1. But yeah, fantastic. And he still does the vocals for all the songs. It's great. Since Cinemark had noted, along with Terri Doty, Cinemark is also turning 40 this year. But it had a whole week in August that was showing 1984 movies, one of which was The Terminator, and got to rewatch that. And I wanted to see Nightmare on Elm Street, but I just couldn't find the time. The times were very specific for those movies each day. And they had like Gremlins, Ghostbusters, Purple Rain. But I did once at a horror convention, I want to say like Texas Frightmare, I saw a 35 millimeter print of Nightmare on Elm Street, and that was also cool. But yeah, I just didn't like the times for Nightmare on Elm Street. But yeah. Also, courtesy of a Verizon deal, I downloaded the VIX app. None of these things are sponsored. I just feel like I need to remind some people none of these things are sponsored. But VIX, it's like over 100 TV channels with like a bunch of movies, series, soap operas, or telenovelas. And you get football, you get 24-hour news, keep you informed, all in Spanish. And watched... Steven's been interested in learning Spanish, and I've been interested in getting back into it. I miss it. So we watched I Am Legend, 2007's I Am Legend, in Spanish, and it was pretty good, you know? We would like pause occasionally, and Spanish dubs are interesting, just the way everything is kind of leveled and all of that. It's Steven's like, whoa, they talk really fast. I'm like, well, yeah. So whenever you hear like a Spanish person like speaking slowly, you know that they're doing that for your benefit, not for theirs. But yeah, that was. Oh, and I did rewatch The Shining, because I finally finished the book. I don't know what kept me from really tackling The Shining, the book, but watching The Shining, not as a film geek and not as like a younger person. There are parts of The Shining as a kid that used to really freak me out. It's interesting because I'd always heard that Stephen King didn't care for it. And having finally read that and Dr. Sleep this month, I get it. Like there are parts of the book where you're like, I mean, how do you really tell that like on screen or blah, blah, blah. But still fantastic performances by Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. And oh my God, I forget who played Danny. I want to say it was like something Lloyd. I don't remember. But I, as a film student, we had to break down and study The Shining all the time. But, and I've never seen like the mini series that Stephen King's like, okay, this is more faithful than the book, but it was like 97 starring like Steven Weber and Rebecca De Mornay. That's more a faithful retelling of The Shining, but haven't seen that. But also made me, when I got to Dr. Sleep, I'm like, oh, because I had already seen the movie, but I'd never read the book. But seeing what Mike Flanagan did with the movie for Dr. Sleep, he basically had to convince Stephen King, like, hey, so I know this, that you have your problems with The Shining, Kubrick's Shining, and I totally hear you. But if we do a movie sequel to The Shining and it not be a sequel to the movie The Shining, it's going to confuse a lot of people. You're going to lose your audience and blah, 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 blah. And eventually like convince Stephen King to, make some concessions. And oh my God, I haven't seen Dr. Sleep again, but I need to, knowing what I know now. Because they gave it a bit of the original Shining ending. It does end differently than the book, but still, my favorite Stephen King book has been Carrie for a very, very long time, and I might have to change it to The Shining, honestly. And right now, I'm in a Stephen King mood. Right now, I'm reading Pet Sematary, which is making me so anxious, so incredibly anxious. Even Stephen King himself, there's a foreword from the early 2000s for one of the editions, and it's the edition of the book that I have, where he's like, Pet Sematary, like, people ask me, what the scariest book I've ever written is, and a lot of people, or, I should say The Shining, but it's Pet Sematary. That's the one he sat on for a bit, and he had a deal that he was ending his relationship with Doubleday Publishing, and he still owed them another book. And his wife, who is his greatest confidant, and hey, I totally respect that because my husband's my greatest confidant as well. He tells it like it is, even if it's not something I want to hear. It's usually something I need to hear. And after a little bit of pouting, I deal with it. But she's like, it's good. It's good. And it is. And, it's also heartbreaking too. And I just wonder if there are certain books that, like I said, it took me forever to get to The Shining and actually read through it. I just couldn't get like past those first couple pages for the longest time. And there are a lot of books that need you to be at a certain spot before you enter that world. Like, I think I couldn't read Pet Sematary at any other point than now, because I tried with Pet Sematary, and I'm going to try with other Stephen King books too. But then there are Stephen King books that just don't jive with me. Like, I did not like Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot was too slow for me. But I get why other people are really into it, or, what's another one? It I have not finished ever. I've tried, I will try again, but, and that's with a lot of books where I've kind of been going through my old library and my old ratings and just think about, like, oh, maybe I should check this out now. And Pet Sematary, I've been very anxious. I'm like about a third of the way through it now. And so, I'll give you guys an update. And speaking of like a hard read, but a very special read. It's A Heart That Works by Rob Delaney. A lot of people know Rob Delaney from his show Catastrophe, or maybe as Peter in the Deadpool series. And he's done a fuckload of stuff. I'm sure I'm forgetting at least like 5 other things that he's really well known for. But I had heard recently, I was like reading up on him because he had kind of trended for a little bit a few weeks ago. And it was about him sharing the loss of his son, Henry, which Deadpool, Wolverine is dedicated to Henry Delaney, and mentions that, you know, it was the loss of his son that made him feel compelled to speak out for the children of Palestine, saying, you know, that he's held a dead child in his arms. But the difference being, you know, as he's done that, he didn't also have to think about the safety of his other children. And that just hit really hard. And basically just being like, if you don't like that, you know, I support the Palestinian people, like, fuck off. You're not gonna, I'm not scared of you. And it made me appreciate him in a whole new light. And then, you know, it kind of turned me on to his book, which again is A Heart That Works. And it's a very, like, it's got his sense of humor, but also it talks about death in a non, like, squirmy way. Like, I don't know, I just wish, like, often, and this could be because I'm also reading Pet Sematary as well, we talk about death in a very like, oh yeah, but like when that happens, if that happens type of way. Like, death is a very real thing that we need to constantly, like, not just steer off, you know, veer off. You know, a friend of mine passed away very unexpectedly. We're a couple years apart, and him and his wife had like the most beautiful marriage. Like, they met as teenagers. They supported each other, like, each through medical school. Like, one decided to go to medical school, and then when one was finished, the other decided to go to medical school. So wonderful people. And then just one day, my friend Peter just didn't come home. And so it just kind of clicked something for me and Steven, where no matter how angry, no matter how intense a fight that we're having, couples that say they don't argue are in trouble, I'm telling you. We always say, I love you if we're leaving. We try not to withdraw in the middle of an argument, but if we're having a giant thing, we still make sure, because we just don't know. I think it's incredibly naive to just be like, you are promised tomorrow. And I don't know. I love the way, I love Rob's writing style. Check it out. A Heart That Works. It's really good. And then the total opposite of that is, like, I read the final volume of Fangirl, which is a fictional book by Rainbow Rowell that has been turned into a manga, and the 4th part just came out. And the illustrations by Gabby Nam. I want to say that's how we pronounce the last name. I apologize. Also read The Serpent and the Rainbow, finally, by Wade Davis. I'd been sitting on that, and I'd seen the movie. But yeah. And I'm also learning to draw right now, because I'm working on a couple of things. And How to Draw Adorable by Carly Ann Tipsy. You know, it's been a lot of fun. And I found that via the TikTok shop. Just because I was watching some of her videos and the way she breaks it down. Just from her videos, I was able to kind of like put some stuff together for trying to figure out like the logistics for this little world that I'm building. That's just for me. But yeah. Just so I guess August has been filled with a lot of awesome stuff. A lot of not so great stuff as well. which, pardon me, I'm a little here and there off mic. I was getting a drink of water. I definitely always want to hear from you guys. And this is why I'll never get rid of social media. I feel like I'm setting it up to be like, but we have to break up. No. And there are definitely parts of my life that sometimes, like after I've shared it with you guys, I'm like, fuck, like, is that TMI? But then I get, thanks from you guys and like, hey, thanks for like being very honest. And, sometimes I'm like, man, did my honesty like kind of like kill a bit of momentum going on here as far as work? But I'm working and I'm proud of the work that I get to do, and I'm glad that I get to be so vocal. It might not always be the case, but that's just the current hellscape we're kind of finding ourselves in. But I did ask you guys if you had questions, and I had 8 different people ask me roughly the same thing. And I think this stems from, one, people already being aware that I just try not to shoot off too much like bullshit. And I was like, oh, I want to talk about this month and blah, 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 blah. But like I got, again, 8 requests, topic requests or questions that are directly tied to this. So I'm not going to point anybody out, but basically, I think it was one of the last submissions that I got for this, and I like the way they worded it, and I'm never going to name names. Remember, everybody who submits remains anonymous, so there you go. But the question, which is going to be long-winded and will probably take the rest of the show, but I'm going to try to be thorough in my answer. I don't want to cut it off. But I don't want to talk at you. That's the last thing I want. So hopefully, just giving my 2 cents. I do not represent anybody, but here is the question. With the current issues going on with SAG and voice actors, what do you, as a working actor, think needs to happen to the union? Do actors need their own union, better leadership, or what have you? It's a good way to put it. And I can't believe that you would ask me, someone of lesser quality, such a question. And that is a direct reference to something someone very high on the food chain said about those of us not currently in the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists Guild. A lot of people misspeak. So, like, there are definitely things I'm like, shit, I could have said that better. Or, hey, Terri, like, no response is also a response. But as far as, like, SAG itself, I really can't speak to the AFTRA of it all. I can't. SAG's been around for, I want to say, almost 100 years. Like, officially, it won't be, like, 100 until, like, 1933. Or I think it's 33, the 30s. But I'm sure like that's the official like founding of it. Who knows how long it took before that, but it stemmed from a lot of what you're seeing now. It stemmed from performers wanting to combat unfair working conditions, unfair contracts, unfair compensation, and it was a way to give performers real power in terms of bargaining, And I'd argue that we've come a long way, both union and non-union. And a lot of non-union stuff gets strengthened because of what happens in the union itself. That might not be what some people want to hear. I'm not going to shit talk the union. I don't really think that's my place. As a non-union member, I will say, as someone who is SAG-eligible, for those that don't know, I'm SAG-eligible. It's kind of hard to feel compelled to join right now. And it's not just because it's expensive to join. Okay, so the way, I may have spoken about this before, but this is all a big journey that we're going to go on together. But the way that I met the requirements is to be able to join and become eligible is I was picked by a producer specifically for a role in a union video game. And so the producer sent me an audition, and I sent that audition back with a couple of notes that they gave me. I just kind of did my own thing, and then I didn't hear anything for a while. And then like about a week or so later, or maybe a couple weeks, I was actually at a funeral when this happened. I got a text like, "Hey, you got it." Oh, hell yeah. And what they were doing basically when they got my audition was they ran that audition up the flagpole and just basically was like, "Hey, here is who I want for this specific character. I'm thinking of nobody else, and here is her audition." That's typically what I've heard is how it works, is you have to like prove like, "Hey, this is something we don't have in our talent pool right now, and we need this." And I was approved, and then I was Taft-Hartley'd in. That's such a hard one for me to say. Taft-Hartley. I was Taft-Hartley'd in, and that's basically Taft-Hartley Act is something that happened is a Labor Management Relations Act that allows non-union people like myself to get hired in union productions. And yeah, that's a very, very common way that most of us become eligible. And that was, let's see, if I was at a funeral, that was about 3 years ago, and I'm still eligible. I just haven't felt inclined to do it. I haven't worked on a SAG project since then. I've auditioned for SAG stuff. I'm able to work on like 2 more SAG things before SAG is like, "Okay, so you have to either join the union or not work on stuff anymore." And that's when, if I was getting busy enough, I'd be like, "Well, fuck yeah, I guess we're joining up." And yeah. So while there are pros to joining, there are cons. That's with anything in life. And I know this is a very long way of answering this, but it isn't simple. So again, building as we go. So yeah, you get higher pay rates and better benefits. That's just the way it goes. You can get just higher pay compared to non-union actors. You get benefits like, health insurance, pension plans, residuals. Residuals blew my mind because I did this video game, and then like months later, I got another check out of nowhere, and I freaked out because I've never gotten residuals before, ever. I've been acting since I was 14 years old. For those of you that want to do the math, that's 26 years. I have never received a residual before. I've been in multiple movies in movie theaters, international level stuff. And I've only ever gotten residuals from this one thing. And it was not a small amount of money. Like, this helped me so much whenever I got it. Like, I wanted to cry. Also, I felt so simple for just like asking my agent, like, "Do you know why they sent this to me?" And he's like, "Calm down." A lot of people got that. It was a booster, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. But like, no, you don't understand. Like, there have been movies where they've just taken my audio files from a previous thing, and I'm in this movie that I didn't, do anything new for, and I did not get paid for it. So to go from that to that, like, that was a big deal to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, I get it. I get it. So yeah, you get residuals, higher, like I said, higher pay, better benefits. You also, there are just not necessarily better opportunities, but I guess better opportunities would be the way to put it. Is like, you, like a lot of the stuff that you grow up wanting to be a part of, like, those are union projects. And, a lot of shows and entities and studios, they want to work with union people. Like I had mentioned, it's like, well, someone referring to non-union talent as lesser quality. It's not about being lesser quality as a non-union person. It really isn't. But there is something, I guess, seen as more professional or more experienced because you were a member of the guild and you have the guild behind you in a way. So being a part of the union just means, I guess, a not better profile, but a bigger profile. You're just going to have more doors open. Whereas a non-union person, I feel like I'm always, I've got a great team behind me. I've got great support in terms of friends and colleagues. My agent has helped me say yes to some stuff and no to some other stuff that really, wasn't there to protect me. AI protections, like I signed 2 different majorly fucked up, like long ass contracts this week. And it's not that the contracts were fucked up. It's that they were so long and, get this back to us. And some people are like, yeah, I just like got it and signed it. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I have to read everything. And I felt so overwhelmed because I felt like I needed a lawyer to like tear some of these clauses apart. And it's like, it's actually really simple. It's this. And my agency was able to like calm me down because I was getting really like, what if like am I understanding this correctly? So I would like copy and paste like clauses to them and be like, can you explain what this means? I'm confused here. And they would break it down for me. And I'm like, hey, it's fine. We're here. We're here to help. And we love that you don't sign everything quickly. That's a really big benefit to you, to us, is that you read everything. Thank you. You're welcome. But just being non-union sometimes means that we can get great opportunities, but we have to just work a little harder to get in front of people. And that's not to say that the union isn't filled with a lot of people too, also trying to do the same thing. I mean, it's a fucking actors guild, performers guild. But also in terms of like, pros to joining, there's protections and working conditions. SAG has limits on how much we can work as voice actors. Non-union, we don't. There is a show that a lot of people know that they don't know. I'm trying to be vague about this, that they don't know that a lot of the actors they love like permanently fucked their voices and were pushed to fuck them up more because it was a non-union project and that deadline's not going to change. So I've done that. I've pushed myself too far before. Or like oh, hey, you sure you can't stay another couple of hours and then we could just be done? I'm like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's just, we might have to do, you're not going to hire someone else like at this close to the end of the contract. Just book me for another day. Like, can we do tomorrow? Like, no. As you're like struggling to like just talk normally. SAG helps prevent stuff like that. They establish rules and regulations that help shit stay safe and fair. Like they make productions take breaks, double check like safety precautions on set, and just like if you have a problem with another coworker, be that like harassment or discrimination or God knows what, like you have the guild behind you. That is not a bad thing. And again, let me talk about residuals, royalties. They are great. They're great. And there's also networking in communities. I'm personally not a fan where I don't know that I'm doing a networking thing. Where like, oh, I thought I was just hanging out with people, but we're all fair weather friends here. Okay, cool. But there are a bunch of industry people that you can just connect with on a real level in a way that you can do through non-union. Sometimes it's a little messier, but that's just as a non-union person, wondering about that. And yeah, there are also like workshops and access to like coaches and all that stuff. Like you get access to people, and that this is something about non-union that bothers me and has bothered me for a while. Is one of the reasons I stopped teaching was one of the reasons. There are several, a couple I can't talk about on air, honestly. But one of the reasons is there would be certain students who's like, all right, I've taken your class, I've taken this class, this class, this class, this class, this class. And they're like listing people that I've worked with. They're like, okay, so like, when am I done? Like, what are you talking about? Like, when am I going to have enough to like start getting cast? Like, we're helping you get better. We're not helping you like get cast. I don't know, where it's like, you're never just done. And one of the first things I tell people is a lot of people don't see success for 5 to 10 years, if at all. Most people will fail at this, and they don't want to hear that. Like, well, no, I've hit all the check marks. Like, no, that's not it. To where if you're doing a training session with perhaps your union and your coach is union as well, I want people to stop taking lessons from people that they have to research. I want you to be taking classes and coaching sessions from people that are doing what you want to fucking do. And that's a little easier in the union, I think. I'm probably pissing somebody off for saying that, but I mean, that's just the nitty gritty. All right, some water before we get to the cons. Cons. Well, the big one for me right now is membership fees and dues. Just joining right now is about $3,000 just to join. And this might shock some of you. I save really well, but I don't have like, here's $3,000 money. Like, I've got to get a new mic soon. And I'm like, I think I have enough. Like, no, I've got stuff saved that I just don't want to touch. But, like gear money and all that, it's about $3,000 for the initial membership currently. And then there are some dues that are due immediately, like your annual dues. And that if you're not working significantly, that's going to be like oh, hey, welcome. And you're broke. And another reason that I haven't is most of what I'm doing currently is non-union stuff. And as a member of the union, I can't work on non-union things. So that's incredibly limiting if, your bread and butter has been non-union stuff. Like, do you want to just say that you're a member of the guild and not work? Or do you want to maybe relocate and go somewhere else? And let me just go ahead and squash this because I see a lot of misinformation about this. It's a little ridiculous. SAG's here in Texas. I don't know why people think it isn't. It is. I'd say a lot more vocal opportunities in the union are possibly more toward California and New York, but SAG's here as well. I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. SAG is definitely in Texas. Yeah, like I had mentioned, another one is competition. There are a lot of us. And there are rules that you need to stick to. But that's with anything. I don't even know if that's like a con or just like stating the obvious. Like that is one thing. Talking to someone who just recently went FICOR, which I guess I can talk about as well, is they're like, yeah, they expected me to, do this. I'm like, well, I get that. I'm like, well, no, it's just fucked up because I always do this. I'm like, yeah, that was when you were non-union, bro. Like, I don't understand I'm confused by your confusion, you know. And then, you know, there could be projects that you really want to be a part of where the opposite happens. And you're like, wait, this is a non-union project? Like, yeah. Like, oh, I can't do it. Like, no, you can't. Okay, so I mentioned FICOR, and that is a big thing, but only if you've been a member of SAG already. And I know I was like I was at a con with another voice actor who I'd admired for years. And I was explaining to Steven, I'm like, oh my God, he's been in this. Like, I love him. And Steven's like, I wonder if he would do this. And so we asked, and he's like, oh yeah, no, I've been in all of this. He's like, so I'm FICOR, is that okay? Like, yeah, man. He's like, okay, like keep that under your hat. But, you know, like, yes, I am SAG, like, but okay. So for those who don't know, FICOR, you might have heard that here and there. It's financial core. It lets performers do both union and non-union. It's basically a member that opts out of being a full member or for a full part of the guild. It's where they'll pay like a portion of the dues, you know, as far as like contract enforcement and bargaining and stuff, but like they don't contribute to any kind of like political stuff or basically anything where it's like, well, you're not a member. And they can't refer to themselves as being SAG, but they get to work on union projects, which means that they're able to work on non-union stuff. And, you know, they get the flexibility of doing both. And they save some they save some money, and they still have access to a lot of the union benefits. But, you know, you're not a full member. And some people, like how I'm mentioning, the friend is all like, yeah, oh, so I'm FICOR, is that cool? There is a stigma. You might have heard a very popular term that happened last summer that a lot of people had never heard before, term scab. I do not consider FICOR people scab, but some other people do. Some people look at FICOR negatively. And do with that what you will. Research is your friend. I'd say Google it, but Googling shit's been really fucking awful lately. I am going to have to stop telling people to Google it. Like, it's easy. Like, it's not anymore. Thanks, AI and monopolies. Not the fun ones where, you know, you get to be like the thimble, which, yeah, I just shocked the shit out of you, didn't I? I'm a thimble, bitch. But yeah, it's limited access, and it does make the waters a little more murky. Yeah, and I think you have to pay something to leave. I can't say that for certain, but yeah, it's a middle ground. But yeah, it's a lot, but a lot of people do that where they'll try to be union for a while, see how it feels, and then if nothing else, just back out and go FICOR. Me, I have really been at odds with joining for a while. And then, yes, there has been talk for a lot of people. It's like, well, you know, we should form our own union. And I get it. I get it. But again, I'm going to remind you, SAG's been around for almost 100 years, and there are growing pangs that I think would really hurt more than help, both immediately and potentially in the future. Like, yes, like you'd get tailored representation, like a union that like knows specifically how to address shit for voice actors, for like voice actor needs, their concerns, the challenges that only voice actors go through. Yeah, like I get it. And we would be able to, you know, negotiate specifically for VO, which has been an issue. It has been an issue for the union, as we've seen. again, I'm going to note AI being a giant clusterfuck right now. But yeah, and you would get like probably just better support like you would, or that like you should in the union, probably specialized advocacy and, you know, all that, or better flexibility as a voice actor. Voice actors sometimes do feel like they're not thought of as frequently as they should be. Like I was thinking, first example that came to mind is like Space Jam, where if you remember Space Jam, a lot of it's animated, but, you know, so there's like a red carpet for like, you know, Michael Jordan and Bill Murray and da-da-da-da-da. But all the voice actors, you know, the bulk of the cast, they didn't hit the red carpet. I don't think some were even invited. Most of them probably weren't. That sucks. But yeah, like having our own union would get rid of a lot of bullshit. And also as media grows, like even like the VR, the AI, even podcasts like these where I'm like, man, sometimes I kind of think, do I need to double check on where people use like obscure chatter or that anime show? But it just is what it is. If someone really wants to steal my voice, they will find a fucking way. And again, I've made this joke, but at least Ariel, when the Sea Witch stole her voice, I mean, did she really, or did Ariel just not read the fucking contract? Because I feel like this is kind of on you, girl. Like, you know, Ursula's litigious. It's not her fault that she has better lawyers than you. But yikes. So there is a lot of benefits to it, but then immediately I'm thinking of the negatives, which is you're immediately fragmenting everything into SAG-AFTRA versus like Viodally. That's what I'm calling the union now. Viodally, not T-Dotally, Viodally. So Viodally, Viodilehihu. Viodally, Jesus, Terry, come on. You're immediately making it to where, like, let's say you're someone that does both on camera and voiceover. Do you really want to be part of two unions? Because I'm guessing not. There's that. And there are benefits to a union that has been around 100 years versus a union that is just getting its sea legs. You're not going to get the same resources or benefits that SAG people do. And you would be fighting just as hard as you do already as a non-union talent in terms of like recognition and support. Like, so think about that. Think about, I mean, what's the finance situation, the admin situation look like? I'm guessing it would be a lot. Maybe a great challenge for somebody else. But there's also a lot of legal and regulatory hurdles, and just it would also just create a big divide that's already there. I don't know if it's worth the potential divide. I don't know. Loyalties, like they're just who's to say every voice actor would be on board? Like me, if I were a SAG member and someone's like, hey, we're forming our own union, be like, I just paid all my fees and everything, and I do my annual fees. I'm not going to join something that's like a year in. You know, that's me. And there would be a lot of conflicts. And it could be that for me, it could be that it's the devil you know. Who knows? But so while a separate union does have a lot of benefits, all I'm thinking of all I'm currently thinking of are the challenges and drawbacks. And so I see both sides of it, but for me, I would say I would just like better leadership from the union that we're already dependent on. That's what I would like. Like, I've seen a lot of people succeed once they've joined as just voice actors. Or I've seen people that are just voice actors because of SAG opportunities realize that they want to branch out. They want to do more on camera. They want to do all of that. And I've seen people really grow, because of the resources that they had and the opportunities that they got because they went union. I've also seen people go broke. Nearly 90%, like one of the things was like health insurance. Nearly 90% of union members don't qualify for the health insurance. I want to say it's like 87%, but I'm saying 90% to cover my ass. Nearly 90%. But I've also seen friends that do qualify, and they're like, dude, they stopped qualifying a while ago. They're like, dude, when we did qualify, it was fucking nice. I saw friends whose memberships lapsed in the first and second year of the pandemic, and they weren't able to vote on important issues, and they felt like there should have been more leeway during that very insane time that was those first couple of years before a vaccine was even available. Older SAG members suffered a lot too. Other side of it, I did have a meeting years ago, and I'm going to try to be as vague and as detailed as possible, but I did have a meeting with some SAG people that came here. I forget why exactly I was meeting with them, but like a friend of a friend was like, hey, some SAG people want to and I think they just wanted to kind of know, since so many of us are non-union people around here, they wanted to kind of feel out how strong maybe the voiceover area or, the voiceover industry in this area is, something like that. I guess it was a little more cloak and dagger now that I think about it. I just remember that I was told they would pay for my chai and they didn't. So villain immediately. Now, so when we met up and we corresponded via email and text here and there too. I want to say I didn't like the way the meetings and correspondence went because I felt like I was being talked at, not talked with. I really don't like being talked at. It did feel like my experience, my years of experience, didn't mean dick to their membership status. And that could be just how I felt at the time, looking back, something like that. But the meeting rubbed me the wrong way. And I had friends that were union members that are oh no, it's this, here's what they meant. And I'm like, okay, well, I just didn't like the way they talked to me. And I didn't ask other people about it. I'm like, maybe it's just me being too sensitive. And it could be, who knows? But I just didn't, it didn't make me want to join up. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of benefits to joining, like I said. But then there's also, I was kind of thinking of those pay-to-play sites that a lot of people shit on, and I've probably shit on them too. But, if you have to pay thousands of dollars to join and constant fees and keep up with everything, how is that not pay-to-play just under a different name? I understand it, but at the same time, it's a lot. There's a lot of information being thrown. And this, basically, it's my brain. Everything that I've talked about, that's all going on in my brain constantly, where the work has been slow, both union and non-union for other friends. I've been texting a couple of friends, just one of which just relocated to LA. I'm like, how's it going? She's like, bitch, not well. And it's not that. It's that none of us are working right now. It's not a fun time. And I think she's FICOR. And then a couple of others that are just doing non-union in New York. Like, oh, it's fine, but it could be better. And I think that's why another reason I love Texas is just cheaper. But everybody's moving here and everything's getting expensive as shit. Stop it. Or share the wealth, god damn it. But I'm not anti-union. I am anti-AI. I'm very pro people. And don't like being talked at. Talk to me, talk with me. And I want to give the Guild the benefit of the doubt here and like say that a lot of the way certain people have come off recently that I've definitely posted about, I think they don't need to have positions of authority if they are so bad at it. Is that like, I was like going to think of this eloquent way, much more eloquent way of thinking about it or saying it, but I'm like, they are bad at it. They should not be doing things anymore because they are bad at it. End of story. I just don't think some people need to be need to hold on to the authority that they currently have. I think there just need to be performers or former performers that have really lived the working actor life that need to be given a chance to have that authority. I'm so worried about AI, like so much lately. Again, those 2 contracts like stressed me the fuck out badly. And it just seems to be like the way it's going. I just, luckily I have an agent and they talk me through, they talk me down quite a lot. Oh, adjusting a little, but it's just not the way it should be. And I do enjoy, let me check what time it is. I do enjoy whenever I get questions from you guys because it honestly makes me think on it. And I do hope that somehow answered your question. Maybe it didn't. I know that there's a lot more in there than how do you feel? Like bad. How do you feel? Not so bad. There is no one right answer. That is how life works. I don't. Okay. So like in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I think actors having their own union is really great in theory. In practice, I know that I wouldn't be considering joining for at least 2 decades after its foundation. I want you to work. I want you to work out the bugs. I don't want the alpha or the beta. I want the like going to retail, like union. And not gonna lie, I'm still considering joining. I'm considering joining mostly at this point. Like I was talking to Steven about it earlier today. I think I would join right now if I had enough shit money. And right now we have enough that we are contributing what we want to contribute to, our savings, our retirement and all that. Though I'm a performer, I'm never really going to retire. I just don't have enough to do that and then immediately say no to the work that I am getting. I wouldn't say the work I'm getting consistently because it has been hit or miss. This has been a really weird year for work where we're working or the work is just really odd. There's some stuff I'm so excited to talk to you guys about, but then it's like, well, if I get to talk to you guys about it. And then there's other things where it's like, man, what happened to that? Like, oh, that got canceled. Like, fuck. But then honestly, right now, the big thing that would get me to join, the big benefit to me right now is not even that I would be open to working on stuff, stuff that I grew up watching with people that I grew up watching and looking up to. It would be the benefits of having better access to workshops and networking, all that. I would love, because some of those things are just things you can't get unless you're in the union. And I would love access to just better resources. But who knows? We'll see. Because I also do love, I guess I've been doing non-union for so long that a lot of the stuff that is really stressful doesn't stress me out the way it would if someone brand new was coming into this. And like, oh my God, you have to do that. I'm like, you get used to it, But yeah, I really, really, really hope that roughly answered your question. It is a lot of information. And again, this is someone who is non-union, but SAG-eligible, telling you all this stuff. I am by no means an expert in all of this stuff. This is just from my own experience. I guess I am an expert at some stuff, but do with this information what you will. And it's just, I am pretty sure that there is no reason to answer any more. We did get a lot of questions sent to us that I'm just going to have to hold on to and hopefully get to next time. For anyone that doesn't know, if you've sent something and I didn't get to it this time, that doesn't mean that I won't get to it eventually. And then there's some that I get where I'm like, no, like I will not do a voice of a character for you. No. If it's your birthday, like ask me then. But yeah, so as we wind down, I'm very grateful for those of you who listen to Obscure Chatter, whether that's through obscurechatter.com, Audible, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Did I say Amazon Music? Whatever. Apple Podcasts, whatever is passing as Google Play now. And I'm trying to think of a few other ones, but also just through the YouTubes, we have 2 YouTube channels because there's also that anime show, which is being re-released every Thursday, TAS Rewind. And we just released episode 8. I'll be releasing episode 9 soon, which I believe is Stephanie Young. And then I'm also, I'm not sure if I told you guys last time, but we've decided to consolidate all the Halloween episodes from that anime show. And we're going to take everything out of sequence and just have those Halloween episodes back to back to back. There's 3 of them. That's going to be the last 3 Thursdays of October. So I hope y'all enjoy those when those hit. Do have to do some editing to get rid of a couple of garbage people on that. And I'll just leave that there. I'm just not looking forward to editing that out. But it'll be better than listening to garbage people be garbage that are garbage. Ending on scandal, I know. But Obscure Chatter is nothing without listeners like you. So thank you for listening. You guys make this fun, and I hope we keep on keeping on until the end of September. What do we say? We read good shit. What do you say? We watch good shit and do all that we can to not be a shit. Later.